Oh baby, it's the PTL Season 6 Division 3 Power Rankings hosted by the number one analyst in Arizona? Probably not. Zangus, who's me. What a terrible introduction. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. Before you go ahead and skip to wherever the part of the video where your team is, and I roast you, let me just give a little bit of a, I guess, like, I don't know, like a disclosure, forewarning. So I did these PRs through my own like little mathematical system I made up, where I rank different categories on a score of 1 to 10. And then each category is weighted a little bit differently, to give you a final score out of essentially 100. So just to go over like what the categories are, like I have like speed tiers, hazards, removal, your typing, your offense and defense just in general, then also your what please please not now. No, help. What happened? Is this gonna be okay? No, my like, thing's slightly messed up. Windows. Well, we're back. No, Windows, please. What is happening? Help. I don't want this. No. No, wait. No, that's too big now. I got it. I fixed it. Okay. Help. Windows. Okay. After offensive defense, there's priority slash scarfers, and setup. So, obviously, like something like offense and defense is going to be weighted higher than typing, and also your typing score. Like if you're missing like a bug in a ice type, I'm not going to like give you like an 8. Obviously, that doesn't make sense. So like certain typings are obviously more important than others. So it's all obviously subjective. I try to add as much objectivity as I could, but of course, a lot of it's based on my own personal taste. So you could very easily have drafted a team that works great for you, and you very well maybe bottom 3 in the PRs and win your first 3 games because you have a team you're comfortable with. But that's the point of post draft PRs. Is I didn't base this at all off the coach because some of you I don't know, others of you I think I know, and obviously there's going to be biases there, but hopefully not based on the coach itself. I didn't like give my friends better scores because that'd just be kind of silly. And then just to go over like a little bit though, I have like a priority scarfers category, and that's more like your ability to like not get swept by setup. So obviously if you have a good scarfing options, you can revenge certain setup mons, or if you have priority stuff like that. And then also like your setup in and of itself can be obviously used to like break walls. So like that's a little bit tied to offense, but offense is more scored on like pure offense. So like if you have like if you have like Mimikyu, that's not necessarily going to help your offense score as much as your setup score. So it kind of balances out. It's like if you have a lot of setup, like your offense gets hurt because you need to set up to be strong. But I don't know, dude. I've lost all my brain. So we're just gonna start off here. I'm gonna put a little like section here where I will list the things. Hopefully the website's not too hard on your eyes. I mean, like I could have like put a lot more effort into this, but why would I? Okay. I did it by team name, so like I don't know the coach names per se, but it'll show up once I do it. So let's start up with number 12, the man himself. It's gonna be Max. He called it, so it's okay. we're all we're all friends here. I wish I could like sort this on speed, but we'll just dive right into it. I'll just kind of go in order of what I thought. So the speed tiers ranking was actually okay. Obviously, you have Mega Arrow, which is going to outspeed a lot of stuff. You have Entei and Durant and Galar, which are great Scarfer options, and then you have like Boltund here, which isn't going to be brought to many matchups, which is okay. Like it still fills in this 121. So if you really need to outspeed like a fast flying type or something, and be able to revenge it and all that, or set up some bulk ups, you got that going on for you. But after that, you kind of hit this. I mean, you have Durant and Tan filling the 95. You have Crocodile here, and then you have Como fitting the 85. So actually, like fills out the middles pretty well. Like anything from I guess like 71 to 84. That's not even really not that bad of a gap. So speed tiers, I think I probably should have actually given him a higher score already. I'm gonna note. We're gonna go through this journey together. Um, I guess I can go. So his overall score was a 74.25. So I mean, like that's out of 100. So that's a middle C. Like that's good. I've looked back at old PRs. I've given teams in this scale like 64s and like, you know, like before, like that's like a bad team. So like none of these teams are bad. Um, they're all within 11 points of each other. So like essentially the highest score is in 84.6, and this is a 74.25. So you're not like too far off. I think there are bigger issues here. So three tiers are actually I mean are kind of decent. 100 to 121 is still an issue because 115s are going to be able to go modest and adamant every single time, and then like your couple of 140s are obviously going to go modest and adamant every time. So like that is probably the biggest issue. The 121 hurts. Like with Mega Arrow, you're like I'm not expecting anyone to fill in a speed gap from like 135 to 140. There's not a lot of mods to do that with, and you shouldn't be forcing yourself to run like Excel Gore or whatever just to do it. But if this was like a 115 and still Bolton, I think like the speed tier score would have actually improved a little bit. But that's how it goes. So next up is hazards. You can see this, right? Yeah. So you have Mega Arrow, Stealth Rock. Not gonna run Stealth Rock all the time. Sometimes you can run a bulky Mega Arrow with like Roost, Stealth Rock, and a couple attacks or something. Crocodile, Stealth Rock, another one. Obviously, often going to be running maybe like Scarf or Band or some sort of damage reduction barrier or something. It's a very offensive mon. Let's say you can run like bulky Rocky Helmet, Intimidate, and run Stealth Rocks, but you don't want to be forced to do that. And then Metagross, pretty much the same thing. Metagross is probably going to be the main Stealth Rocker, honestly. Probably running bulky sets with like Colbur, what have you. And the only hazard is Stealth Rock, so that's little bit on the lower side on the score. Like I'm not super into hazard, so I think the hazard's weight is pretty low in the first place. I mean, as long as you have like a rocker you can click if you really need it to force some pressure and force your opponent to bring removal. Like even if you're forcing your opponent to waste move slots on removal, like that's still better than nothing. And then removal in of itself is its own separate thing because it doesn't matter if you can set up all the hazards. If you get ran over by them, it's an issue. So here you have Komalo running Rapid Spin, which it's not going to want to do. And then you have Aerodactyl running Defog, which it's not going to want to do. So with a Mega Arrow and a Darm, like you have, and Entei, you have three like very offensive good mons that what Mega Arrow can't run boots, and Darm and Entei aren't always going to want to run boots. Sometimes you're going to want to run Band or Scarf, basically. Entei can run boots a little bit more easily, but Darm running boots is like it's a big loss with being able to run that massive offense. So I'm gonna just kind of scroll you up to be nice. So yeah, that hurt. Typing was actually great. I think he was only missing something like a rock type. No, he has a Mega Arrow. He's missing one non-important type bug, I think it is. So when you're only missing bugs, like that's an amazing typing score. But typing isn't super weighted because it doesn't matter if you pick every type and your team has no like synergy. It's not super helpful. And then offense was obviously pretty good. You have Darm, you have Arrow, and you have Prim and Crook and Metagross. So you have all these like massive attackers. The special side is kind of weak. I know like Haunter is there, has 115. And like you have Blossom that hits on the special side, but basically like Prim's gonna have a lot of special carrying it needs to do, and Komo's not gonna want to run special every week. It has a little bit higher special or physical attack, slightly better physical attacking options with like Drain Punch or Close Combat. As my dog like hacks in the background, I don't know if that gets caught. But so really good like physical offense. The offensive score is good, and thus the defensive score is pretty bad. You have your active recovery is Aerodactyl, I believe. Nothing else gets Bellossom probably I guess gets like Strength Sap. But you don't have a lot of like Recover, Roost, Wish. You have there's no Cleric. Kamala gets Wish. Like I said, Kamala's not gonna want to come very often. So defense score got hit pretty bad, which isn't necessarily bad because if you have really good offense and good like speed tiers typing, you know what I mean. If just your defense is bad. But the hazards and removal are also hurting this team. Priority Scarfers, I have a pretty good score on here too because you have Scarf Darn, which is a great set. You have Scarf Crook, even Scarf Entei. You also have you can see here. Extreme Speed Entei is really good. Bullet Punch Metagross is decent. The other three, Sucker Punch and Aqua Jet, not amazing, but that's still a decent score. And then Setup is a slightly worse score, but still okay. I mean, you have like Belly Drum Darm, you have Como is like amazing setup. You can run Calm Mind Prim, you can run Home Claws here, you can run Bulk Up here, Quiver Dance here. So like setup's pretty good. Maybe I could have given it half point more. So it's, as I said, it's not a bad team by any means. I think it's just the biggest issue is that like removal score gets like exaggerated by 3 week to rocks. That you're gonna be really hating to run Defog Aerodactyl or be bringing Rapid Spin Kamala every week. If your team isn't weak to rocks and you had, like if you only had like Entei and you didn't have any other rock weaknesses and you'd have this score, you'd get like maybe like a 6 out of 10 on removal, something like that. I'm not gonna like go into super detail of my scores, and this guy probably got way more time than I need to give to anybody else. But I wanted to give a nice breakdown of what I'm doing here. I'm gonna go a lot quicker for the rest. So that's 12th place. In 11th place is Brandon. Don't even deny. So this is a rain team that is the rainest rain team. Like he literally has 4 Swift Swimmers. Am I right? Yeah. So you have Kingdra, Mega Swampert, Omastar, and Barraskewda, and it's just too much. Like Pelipper dies at all, or you're not running like Damp Rock. You're either bringing like one of these 4 because you only need the one, or you're bringing all 4 and like it doesn't make any sense. Like it's way too much pressure. You have Melmetal. You have 2 Steel types which is obviously nice in rain. But like a good like Roserade is going to be like carrying this team against grass types, because otherwise like a Fizz Def grass type just like you're screwed. So you need to keep Roserade healthy, and then let me just toss in here. You have Lickitung for Witch, so I guess Roserade gets Synthesis, but you know what I mean. Like it's gonna be tough. Like this is like you could definitely use this team well. So it was pretty middle of the pack. Like Typing got a pretty good score here, surprisingly, despite like 5 water types. He actually like filled out his typing pretty well. Didn't have any obvious gaps, but obviously like that grass weakness hurt his defensive score a bit. And then his offense score is also like his top 2 scores were offense and typing. So he's got his types covered pretty well despite it being a million water types, and got pretty good offense here. Everything else was like 7.5s, and then your setup I put as a little bit bad, even though like you have rain, which is like setup in and of itself. You pretty much just have like Omastar, Klefki, and like Power Up Punch Swampert, and like like I guess you have like Iron Defense Melmetal. Like there's not any like setup going on here to even like Barraskewda sadly doesn't get Sword Stance, and Kingdra can get like you can run, what is it? The critical hit move, Focus Energy. That's barely set up. I guess you can run Dragon Dance too, but you don't have like a Swift Swimmer that is setting up. You're like Pert with Power Punch is your best option. So it's just like it's a really like heavy rain team. I'm assuming, I don't know if Brandon's ever used rain before, so he just wanted to like go all in. At least I don't even think it's necessarily a bad team. I've seen way worse rain teams for sure. I think like in other leagues that I'm in right now, I've seen worse rain teams. But just quick. I like these little options that this like gives you. He does have like nice hazards with like Omastar, Klefki. He has decent defoggers, Klefki and Pelipper. Pert's not gonna want run Stealth Rock, so he actually has like his rocks options are worse than his like spikes options and toxic spike options, which is rare, but it's not terrible. Aromatherapy Rose is nice, and then he does have some decent. Okay, no, he doesn't really have decent priority, but your Swift Swimmers are like built-in priority. So there you go, Brandon. Your team was a little bit easier to review because it wasn't just a bunch of mons that had a theme to it. Theme teams are much easier to talk about. I just like completely spoiled. Who's number 10? It's going to be the Philadelphia Fusion Flare. So here, this is another team. It performed better in offense and defense both than Brandon, but otherwise the scores are pretty similar. Brandon's average score was 74.65, so he was just 0.4 above max, which means any sort of like I could have given this half a point more, could have easily brought those two away from each other. So it's not like a huge disparity. I've had ones where it's like the next highest score is like 77, and then the lowest score is like a 70. Like I've had like 7+ point disparities in the bottom rank. So these are all pretty close. And then Sneaky Salmon gets a 76.65, so a couple points higher. You know, speed tiers I can go over more specifically. I mean, you have Weavile, you have Zard Y. So and after that is basically Excadrill. I'm gonna ignore Delcatty. So you have some pretty bad gaps here. Speed tiers are actually rough. You do have Sand Excadrill to obviously make up for that, and then you have like a weird half like Sun Victory Bell. So you have like a weird dual weather team, which messes up the synergy. But I don't really have a specific score for synergy, so like I'm not gonna roast you on that. But hazards, we can go over. Extra's not gonna run rocks, but Hippowdon's such a strong rocker, and then you have like Pincurchin in the background to potentially set up some stuff. Like Hippowdon's such a strong rocker that the hazard score is actually okay just because of that. Hippowdon's only going to be running like Toxic, Whirlwind, Slack Off, Stealth Rock, and one or two offensive moves. So like you have like 6 moves you can pick from, and one of them being rocks most weeks is fine. And then you do have like Rapid Spin, Exca, Defog, Rotom. Defog Rotom is going to be huge for this team with Mega Zard. So like remove a score to get hurt by that a bit. Typing was fine. You were missing something. Like I think it's a poison type. No, you have Victory Bell. Fighting, I guess. You're missing like a bunch of like you're basically missing all like the random types that no one cares about, like bug and ice and rock. That like it's just like I'm not really gonna hurt you too bad for that. But you're also missing fighting, and it's just like it'd be nice to have that. Just to break like I don't know dark types. I guess you have Sylveon. I don't know what I'm talking about, obviously, but. You're not particularly like weak to anything. Like maybe like a good Watermon with freeze dry kind of like really messes you up here. So that's a bit of an issue. Those aren't too uncommon. So yeah, the offense score on this is slightly better than the defense, but they're both decent. You have Hippowdon, Sylveon and Rotom are like some nice defense. You do have Wish Passing. You have Heal Bell. Sylveon and Delcatty are the same Pokemon, except one of them doesn't exist. And then priority setup both. Scarfers both okay. I mean, Weavile's great priority. You have Scarf Rotom to work with. Your Scarf Dracozolt. So like your Scarfers are a little bit slow. Like you're not gonna want to run Scarf Weavile, so it's not a great priority setup score. But this team's okay. It's a little bit wonky. I mean, I don't think you wouldn't expect like a fake dual weather team to run into issues. Obviously, Sun with Rotom Wash can be an issue, and Sand with like Weavile. Sometimes you want to run like Sash Weavile or something can be an issue. But as I said, none of these teams are bad. It's got some like weird kinks to it. So there you go. Right after Sneaky Salmon in ninth is gonna. I don't have like numbers. I do have numbers. Ninth is where is he? Gonna be Amit, my good friend, whose profile picture is like always Chris O'Dowd, which I appreciate. But I don't know. Let's see. Anything glaring? No, the worst thing I had about this team was priority and scarf options. You're gonna be running scarf or Shifu like every day of your life. Nothing else on this team really wants to scarf. I mean, obviously you have Houndoom Mega at the 115, and you have Zera, which very like you can definitely bring Scarf Zera. It's a great like check to speed setup and fast mons, but like you lose a lot of offensive potential by doing that. And then you obviously have Venusaur to like catch mons with like the fake Sun team. There's a cat chewing on my computer cord. But your priority is basically non-existent. You're like fake out Zera. Like Circuit Punch Houndoom is actually going to be okay sometimes because I think it gets a pretty good, not a pretty good attack, but only 90. But otherwise, like this team's good. Your hazards are actually pretty good. You have Stealth Rock Chansey, Sticky Web Swordpuff, Stealth Rock Steelix, and Torkoal and Uxie. Like those are like you have like a ton of amazing Stealth Rock options, and you have backup webs, which is nice. Obviously to get like a 10 on hazards, you would have needed a good. If he had like Roserade, I guess, over Venusaur or something on his team, like even though Roserade is pick, it's just like hypothetical to get decent spikes and T-spikes. Probably get a 10 on hazards because this is really good. Removal a little bit harder. Defog Mantine is gonna want to come a lot. Torkoal is a decent rapid spinner, but if you're running like Stealth Rock Rapid Spin, then okay, are you running like Yawn? Are you running Toxic? Like you're probably gonna want a status and then like a fire move. So it's gonna be a little bit tougher, but I mean you can definitely do it. So it's not terrible removal. It's just a little bit rough. And then Torkoal can run boots most weeks, and your Mantine kind of as well. So you're not too worried about rocks. But Houndoom Mega obviously going to be hurt quite a bit. Although the synergy with Solar Power Houndoom Mega with a Sunmon, I cannot be mad at. It's pretty fun. Otherwise, yeah, like your defense is actually a little better than your offense on this team. I mean, you have Urshifu Zero, which are great physical attackers, and then you have Houndoom and the Sun, which is a great special attacker. Other than that, it requires pretty much setup. Like Venu, a lot of the time is gonna want to run growth to get that really special attack boost. I mean, obviously Life Orb with like Sun Bomb, Solar Beam, Weather Ball, that in the Sun can be pretty good. But your defense, you have like you can run bulky Slurpuff. You have all right, time leap. It's 2 hours later. I got held up with something or whatever. So I put defense hierarchy. You have like Chansey, Slurpuff, and Uxie, and Steelix, and Torkoal. You have a lot of good bulk. You have like wish passing options. I mean, you have like massive physical pressure here, but like you have like you have like three like built-in offensive mons, and then one that like requires Sun. And also, I mean, you have a lot of setup here. You have growth, nasty plot, bulk up, belly drum. So it's not terrible. No like speed setup per se, but it's still a pretty decent score. And yeah, I think I mentioned Scarfers, but basically your Scarfers just are Shifu. Um, oh yeah, whatever. Good job, Amit. Still a decent team. 77.7 is the score. I'll try to put that up over like here. I don't even know how I'm gonna fill this space. I'll fill it with some. This looks terrible. Help. Okay, next up in 8th place, I cannot tell you off the top of my head who the coach is of this one, but it's the Cardiff Devil. Oh, it's Luke! Luke and your dumb middle tier team, except you drafted Mega Medi and threw it all away at the last second, which is fine. So you have like 300 base 100s on this team. Obviously you have 3, and I just like exaggerated. So right off the bat, your speed tiers are actually just okay. I mean, it's nice to have a lot of 100s. And then you have like a 110 and a 115 to fill it out, which is nice. But then I think you have a huge drop. I think you go 100 to 80, so that anything in like any like Crook or base 95 or a Shifu, I mean, you're gonna outspeed them with all your hundreds, but they can very much afford to go adamant or modest, and you're not gonna have switch-ins as much. But otherwise, I mean, you did all right with the budget picking. I mean, there's definitely like huge issues. I mean, you have like 2 rock types, so you're not like super weak to like water or ground because you have like Togekiss and Flygon and Sarina. Sarina is probably going to be actually like pretty big for this team, I feel, just because like grass resists like some of your issues, and I guess ice isn't huge, but like I guess like a freeze dry is gonna kind of mess you up because then you just have like Colossal and Vanillux and sort of Doublade, which doesn't have any special defense. But I mean, you're doing all right here. Hazards and removal. Heavy is okay hazards. So I mean, you have Colossal, which is very nice. T-Spike Cyndaquil is very nice, but then you have Sticky Web too. Maybe I should have given you more, like another half point of hazards. I think I missed Sticky Web. But that's okay. I don't know if that would have boosted you a spot or not. But all good. Your removal is pretty good though. You have 2 good rapid. Well, you have like 3 rapid spinners. One is like pretty good. The other 2 are decent. I'll let you figure out which one is which. Defog Togekiss is okay. Even Defog Flygon can come just because it has that nice levitate. So if they're webbing against you, you have like Clear Body Tentacool or Levitate Flygon to kind of get past that. Otherwise, there was this. I'll give you a 9 on typing. I think I forgot about typing. No one's typing has been terrible. No one got lower than an 8 on typing, so it's not really worth bringing up unless like there's a glaring like, oh, you're missing like a ground type. You have no electric immunity, but I don't know if there were any of those. But yeah, lots of 7.5s on this one. High scores like typing, which is whatever, and removal. So offense and defense, I just have as a little bit lackluster. I mean, you definitely have Mega Metacham. I know I'm saying lackluster physical offense, but after that, I mean, you don't hit too hard on the physical side. I mean, Flygon's base 100, right? Lycanroc's pretty decent, 117. So you have like 2 good physical attackers. I mean, Togekiss was okay, especially with nasty plot. Some of your breakers are relying on setup. I mean, you have Vigavolt, which is pretty good. I mean, obviously it's got a massive special attack. Vanillux does stuff, but I think the offense is overwhelming. You don't have just like Mega Medi is basically your pure offense, and you have decent setup. I know Medi gets bulk up, Lycan gets obviously SD, Togekiss gets Nasty Plot, Flygon has Dragon Dance, Vikavolt can Agility, Doublade can Swords Dance. So I mean, like you got a lot of good stuff going on. I don't. I think it's just mid tier syndrome. Like, because I mean, I did the same thing in another league, and I don't think my team's that good. So like, Mega Medi's obviously like the star of this team, and it could be good. I mean, obviously, Mega Medi webs is gonna be very good. Potency there, you just gotta keep the webs up, and do all that. But I don't know. I mean, like this team could very well do fine. I mean, I'm not doubting your skill to use it. And that's why it's pretty much in the middle, right? Like this, I mean, 8 out of 12, I guess, is a little bit lower. 6 and 7 out of 12 are like the real middle spots. But you know, very decent team. You got some ons I like on there. And you know, it's up to you to use it well. It's one of the teams like slightly underwhelming. Like it's definitely not bad. And I believe it'll do something. And I keep thinking you have Galardarm because of your logo, but then you don't. Someone else does. Another most buy sharps coming in at hot number 7, 78.7. Oh, did I not say Luke's one? It was 78.05 on that one. So 78.7, just like, you know, like 0.65 above. Nothing crazy. So I mean, obviously you're gonna look at this team. You're gonna be like, what's going on here, huh? Tabulele Mega Scizor, huh? What you doing, buddy? But you know, it could work. I've seen Trog do it. He did okay. I think he went 6 and 5 that season that he had it. So like it's doable. It definitely hurts. I think like your priority score actually like isn't as good as you would think it was with a Mega Scizor. Like a Mega Scizor should get you like a 7.5 on priority and just off the rip, and I only give you a 7. So it's obviously because of the train interaction. So it did hurt like your score a little bit. It's not like I just ignored it because I didn't know how to do it. But I was just going down. Speed tiers, iffy again. You have Crobat, which is nice. You have a huge drop from that to Ambipom, and Subtile Ambipom, neither of which are going to come super often. And then you drop from 115 to 95. So the 110s are going to have an absolute field day against this team, running, you know, Adamant, Mades running Bulk, just because Kurum and Lele are both there at 95. So those gaps hurt, and then from 95 to 80 is like manageable, and I don't really care about anything below like 75. Honestly, it's not a huge deal. I mean, Shuckle's there, who cares? You're in Trick Room with like nobody else. Shuckle doesn't get Trick Room. Am I kidding me? So you know, so the hazards are bad, as it turns out. So you have T-Spike's Drapion, that's very nice, and then you have Shuckle. Shuckle like is very hard to bring because it's really a wasted slot. If you gotta bring like basically Mental Herb to not get taunted, or you have to make sure like you don't let them remove, because Shuckle is basically going to sacrifice itself to remove, or it's going to like Toxic or stuff if it's your hazard setter. And then obviously Drapion is nice with Toxic Spikes. I think I'm like in Robot Town here, but maybe not. But obviously Drapion's not always going to be running Toxic Spikes. It's going to be running Assault Vest a lot of the time. Yeah, look at these sprites. As long as it sounds okay, I don't really care about the quality of my like mouse cursor and shit. So hazards are an issue. Removal is also an issue, because you have Crobat and Scizor as your only two removals as defog, so you can't keep your own webs up if you want to remove. And then you have Crobat and Kurum and Chandelure all weak to rock, so not all those are going to be wanting to run boots. I mean, like Chandelure is going to want to be choice a lot of the time, if not like boots and setup maybe, and then Kurum, same thing, Scarf Specs, or maybe like a sub set. So they can run boots, but you don't want to be forced into running boots. And Scizor, it's tough to run defog on it because you're going to want like Roost, Bullet Punch 100% of the time. So then you have to decide between U-Turn or Sword Stance or like Toxic or defog. So like it can run it for sure. It's not like your hazard scored nothing, but slight issues there. Typing, you actually have every type, so that's a 10. And that's weighted lower than most, I think, every other category. So it still definitely helps you to have like the types. You have options. You're never running into like, oh, if only I had a fire type to break this thing. You have a fire type in Chandelure, and it's a decent one. I mean, obviously, like Shuckle isn't really like a rock or bug type, like offensively, because you're not gonna be like, oh, I have rock coverage for Volcarona now. So you got some issues there. But I also don't like rank teams. If I can look at a team, be like, oh, Volcarona beats this team, I'm not gonna like hurt your points because there's one Volcarona. Like if it's just like, oh, Water Ice beats this team, that's a much bigger issue. But then your offense is decent. Your defense is a little bit worse. So obviously, you have Mega Scizor, Lele, Kurum, Chandelure, like huge offensive threats up here.
I mean, even Crowbat's nice and fast. I mean, these don't have like amazing offensive stats, but that's okay. I mean, even Subtile's hitting at 105. It's okay. Defense is mainly an issue because you're kind of forced to run bulky offensive mons, which isn't necessarily bad. I mean, it is nice to run a bulky Hero with Roost, a bulky Crobat with Roost. Gastron does get recovery, so you have recovery options. But there's no like, you're not gonna be walling people too many weeks. You're going to be running through with like Lele and forcing them to predict, like, oh, I want to click a nice strong fighting move. Oh, I don't want to bring a fighting type. There's Lele right there. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Chandelure is immune. So I think it's a decently well rounded team. I mean, it's probably more to my styles, which is why like I don't think this team is like amazing, but it's still in seventh based on relative to the other teams. Like someone might look at this team and be like, oh, this would definitely be a bottom three for me, which I totally get. But I kind of look at the score. I just like do scores one category at a time and see what the overall spits out as, rather than looking at a team and being like, well, this on paper, like at a glance, like feels like a better team. Which it may actually be a better way to do PRs, like theoretically. Also, like this is Dolphja, which I think is Ruben. I didn't like say who it was. I just said the good thing. So whatever. Moving on. Next in sixth though, we're in the top six now. Is the Sanderstead Seismitoads, which is Cirque. Cirque is the ghost type master. He loves ghost types. We got 3 of them here. You've never seen it before. You'll never see it again. I don't know if that's true. This is like flat 8s across the board on average. The average score is 78.9, so actually only barely beat Nethermost Bisharp. But I mean, it's not all 8s literally, but it's got a lot of them. So Spiritomb is decent. You got Infernape, Shaman, and I guess Morpeko. Or Mimikyu, I guess. Maybe it might be a better example. Holding up your medium speeds. You obviously have a huge gap between Infernape and Pult. But you have like some priority and stuff to make up for it. You have a random bear tick here, which I don't think is like not doing much here. I guess you have like a weird Swift Swim like manual setup core going on. Hazards are okay. You have Crustle, which is pretty decent. Infernape, which doesn't always want to click rocks, but it can force switches and click them. And then Seismitoad is a very good rocker. So that's going to do well for you. Removal is a little bit worse. You basically just have Mandibuzz and Morpeko, but Mandibuzz is such reliable removal that it doesn't like hurt you horrendously. After that, it's I think you're missing a couple like important types here. I don't remember specifically what they were. Of course, you have your like Fairy Dragon Steel. I mean, Mimikyu is your only fairy type is a little bit iffy. I mean, it's a very nice mon. I like it. 13 points is probably pretty good value for it. I wouldn't say it's cheap, but I think you got some stuff working here. But I mean, I'm not gonna like I didn't memorize. I mean, obviously missing like normal. Like that's not a huge deal. Poison type I think was big. I think no poison type hurt you a lot. I mean, you do have AG, but like fairies are gonna have a very very strong matchup against you, especially like fast offensive fairies or ones that can hit AG, which there aren't too many of. There's no fairy ground or fairy fire, which is helpful quite a bit. And obviously you have 3 ghosts, like wasting your wasting your type slots for other types. But it's typing not amazing. Offense and defense pretty balanced here. I mean, your first 3 are very offensive picks. All able to go mixed too, which is pretty great. And then after that, you kind of lose it. Mimikyu relies on setup. Shaman has a strong grass move, but can't really set up. Crustle has setup as well. But then you also have Seismitoad, Shaman, Mandy. That's a very nice defensive core. Mandy and Shaman can recover. You don't have like wish passing to Seismitoad, but you can always like rest or something. Your Shaman with Aromatherapy is nice. You have great priority, obviously AG with Shadow Sneak. Infernape has infinite priority. Mimikyu has infinite priority. So you have some like really good priority, really good setup here. And I think just those strong priority setup, everything. Like removal is kind of your biggest issue, but this is one of those teams where let me look for the Rock Week. Oh, it's these mons that come very rarely, and Crustle likes to run Boot Sturdy. It's a very good item for it. So it's really just like Beartic and Mandy that are running issues. And Mandy's just gonna run Helmet, Lefties, or Boots every week, almost all the time. So not a huge issue. So it's all team. It's all dropped by Ruben, despite the 3 ghost types. We'll see how he makes it work. As my dog knocks over a broom. It's fine. So probably get one more before I have to dip, but it'll be all the same for you. In fifth place, I didn't have to change it. It's Ali and the Basil Bastiodons. Basil? That's an herb if you're in Europe. So this is a spooky team. It's definitely a good team. This is I just did them alphabetically, so this is the first time I ranked. So I may have been a little harsher because I didn't have other teams to compare to. So any issue I saw was just an issue rather than well, I've seen worse. But at the same time, obviously it's like, oh well, I've seen better. So obviously Darkrai Mega Latios is an awesome pair. There are like Latios can run physical, the 130 base attack Dragon Dance. Like you're not like too locked into special attackers here, but the team is very specially offensive in terms of like raw offense. I mean, you have Mianshao, great physical attack. You have Delmise and Mudsdale, great physical attackers, but they're typically wait, they're typically forced. This help me, my brain is melting before our eyes. Typically forced into bulkier roles, and you're not gonna, you run the occasional like maybe like banded offensive Delmise. Mudsdale almost always going to be defensive, even if it's max attack, it's going to be max HP. So it's not like pure physical offense where it's like, oh, I have no Mudsdale switch in. That doesn't happen too often. So the defense actually I think is a little bit. Let me check your score. Actually, defense I have a little bit worse than offense. Maybe I shouldn't, but you know, you have Delmise here, which can recover, can run bulky. You have bulky Garbodor you can run. Florges, wish passing, very nice. Blastoise generally going to be Blastoise Heatran generally going to be physical roles. You have a good like coverage for all your weaknesses. I mean, Latios Heatran is very good. Like I can say any team is like Bolt Beam Water weak. I mean, but you have Florges, so like special attacks aren't a huge issue. So it's a very well rounded team. Probably should have scored a little bit better. Like I said, I may have been a little bit harsher on this one. But as far as hazards go, Charge Bug, like sure, you have Garbodor, you have Heatran and Mudsdale, decent stealth rockers. And then you have Latios is going to want to run Defog. Florges isn't really going to want to run Defog, but Blastoise, Delmise are decent rapid spinners, so there's not a huge deal there unless you're facing like a Ghost type. I guess a Ghost type could be a big issue for this team if it's able to hit Darkrai, because then you don't really have a switch into Ghost moves outside of Darkrai, and obviously Darkrai is bulky. It's got like its natural legendary bulk, but it's not doing anything crazy. And then Priority and Scarfers are, I think, where this team got hurt, where they wouldn't be top 4, maybe top 3. So Scarfers, you're going to be forced into Scarf Mienshao and Scarf Darkrai a lot. I mean, you can run like Scarf Heatran and Blastoise with like Eruption and Water Spout. Those are fun. But if the opposing team has any sort of like, base 100 plus that makes a good Scarfer that can, U-turn out on Darkrai and Latios, you're going to be running into issues trying to deal with that. Obviously, you have switch-ins for bug-type moves, but then you're just getting pivoted on the whole time. And eventually, something like a Gengar is going to come in and it's going to have Ghost Poison, and you're not going to be like able to switch into it. And of course, like I said, I don't use Gengar as like a way to score because that's one mon, and not, I guess there's a Haunter out here too. So that didn't hurt your score. What I just made up now, I just made that up now as an example of where this team could run into issues. By not having good priority or Scarfers. I don't actually remember what the priority options are. Basculin and Blastoise and like Fake Out Mienshao. Like these aren't like, you're not gonna want to run physical Blastoise. Basculin's not coming too often. Darkrai's not gonna run physical too often. And Mienshao Fake Out's nice, but it's gonna be choiced a lot. It's gonna be it's maybe Life Orb, maybe Solvest occasionally with regen, but all the time Scarfer banned. So it's a very decent team. I mean, it's fifth. That's up there. I don't know if I've been mentioning the scores. This one is 79.85, so it's almost a point higher. So we're gonna start getting. There's actually a huge gap in first and second, and the rest of these, for whatever reason, I may have just like been giving up at the end. It's just been like, man, a lot of these teams have been like okay, but and then the others just tickled my fancy. So last for now, even though I don't need to tell you that because I can just cut. Is in fourth. It is the Kentucky Mudsdale and Murkit, carried by his children, giving him the will to fight. I don't know anything. So obviously you can see some nice picks here early on. Celestial, Mega Dancy, big old boys there. Hydreigon, great this gen, Nasty Plot, and all that. Speed tiers aren't amazing actually. Just to start with, you have Dancy, Hydreigon, and Scolipede as your main speedster. Scolipede is a built-in Scarf, which is very nice. Dancy obviously can Rock Polish. Hydreigon's probably going to be forced into a Scarf roll decently often. If you have any sort of like really bulky ground that Dancy and Scolipede can't break, you're gonna have to be really relying on like Vaporeon Decidueye to handle those. Otherwise, like, oh wait, I just said bulky. If you have something like Lando, I guess I don't know. Like I was talking about speed tiers, and then I went into bulk. If you have something that Dancy and Scolpede can't necessarily handle, that maybe outspeeds them, maybe it's a really fast. They don't really share any weaknesses. I don't know. I don't know what I'm even talking about. It was something that Scully can't break. Some sort of like bulky steel that's also fast. Okay, my point sucks. Never mind. Ignore that. Hazards and removal are both just meh. So you have Rapid Spin Claydol and Stealth Rock Claydol, Defog Decidueye, which are nice. Defog Hydreigon, Rotom Like your defog options are kind of and Rapid Spins are kind of bad. I mean, Decidueye is decent. Defogger, I'll maintain that. Hydreigon's not always gonna want to run it. Claydol can't come to every matchup by any means, and neither can Rotom Frost. But you do have decent setup. You have Spikes, T-Spikes with Scolipede. Dancy doesn't always want to run Stealth Rock, but it can force switches and run it. It's usually running like Dual Stab, Earth Power, and then Rock Polish, Calm Mind, and Rocks. It's like that's the Dancy set. And then so Claydol can't always come, but when it does, it might do something. I don't know. So typing another 10-point typing, I would say like it does boost your score, but all the typings were within 8 to 10, so it's not like this is the difference between 4th and like 9th because he had an ice type in Snom. Technically, I shouldn't even give him 10 because Snom doesn't count as Ice Word Bug. I really should. I guess he should be a 9.5 on typing. I don't think it would move him down below Ali, but it actually might. So we'll think about that. Offense and defense are actually both. Defense is same as Ali, and offense is a little bit worse. Because you have Dancy and Hydreigon, nice big special hitters, and then you have Scolpede, decent physical hitter. You have Emboar, huge physical hitter, but you're kind of lacking like breaking power here. Besides Dancy, which in this format isn't running play rough, so it doesn't have like the physical edge as much as it used to, or I guess will have because it's data mine. So you're missing some like pure offense. Dancy is nice, Hydreigon is nice, but like you're gonna be relying on like heavy slam, Selly getting hits off, and maybe like SD, Life Orb, Scully to kind of boost your offense a little bit. And then defense is a lot better. Obviously, you have Celesteela, you have Wish Pass, Vaporeon, which is a great pair with a lot of these mons. You have Decidueye, Bulky, and Roost. You have like Claydol. So I mean, it's still only an 8 in defense. Like I'm not saying this is amazing, but actually, no, they're both 7.5s. Whatever, they're decent. Like you have moves here that you can do stuff with, and then I think one of your best options is your setup. You have like Auto Zelly, you have Speed and Calm Mind Dancy, you have Nasty Fly Dragon, you have Sword Dance Scolpede, Sword Dance Emboar, or Sword Dance Decidueye. I guess technically you have Emboar for bulk up. You have Nasty Plow, Run Frost, Claydol gets like Cosmic Power and shit. So you have a lot of setup. Very very nice. So that's why your offense and like defense even a little bit get hurt. But then the setup kind of brings you back because if you have bad offense and bad setup, then you can't do anything. You're gonna have a lot of trouble breaking teams unless you really just want to stall. But most stall teams have like a couple breakers just to like throw people off their game. But yeah, it's a very decent team. There's not a lot wrong with it. I mean, there's no speed pass for Scully, but there's not much you would speed pass on this team. Anyways, Dancy could be okay, and Hydreigon could be okay, so you don't need to worry about trying to set up speed on their end. But it's very 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 good enough team to get 4th. I'll tell you that much. And then I'm going to take another break, even though you don't see that, and I'll be right back.
All right, I'm back. Took a nap. I'm in the twilight zone of mental space. We're on to number 3, baby. Ooh, last one was Merc at 80.35. We're back. It is number 3. How's the City Jackson answers? It's Soul at 80.45. So, very similar scores here, but let's see what Soul has done right. Besides this awesome logo, I'm glad it updated. Last time I was on looking at it on mobile, and I was looking at it somewhere, and it wasn't updated with his cool logo, but he has dope cool logo now. So we got some nice starts here. So we got Kieran Black, massive monster threat. We have Mew, massive monster threat, but 20 points gonna even with the 17 to 20 point rule, gonna melt your budget just a little bit. But then immediately goes into a bunch of bulk with Skarm, Mega Alt, Bliss, and Cineroar. That looks like a nasty core to deal with. You even have some Wish Passing. You can see he's doubling up on some types here. You got some Kieran Black, Dragon, Mega Altaria, Deal Whimsicott, Fairy with Altaria. So Mega Alt here is a little bit weird, but at the same time it works because Whimsicott isn't a super defensive Fairy. So it's nice to have like a real dragon resist technically in Mega Alt once it's Mega'd. And same thing with Kyurem. If you're getting crept by dragon types, you can still actually
take them with your fairiness. So it kind of works out. Let's see. So speed tiers and hazards are another okay score. There weren't any like super good speed tier teams for the most part in D3, which is fine. You don't necessarily need that. It's just something I like. So yeah, one's got a 116. You have Mew at 100, and then you have like everything in between here. So you're 95, 87, 80, 70. Like you're covered in the lower speeds. But you're gonna really run into an issue here with catching other speeds. So any sort of like, oh, I'm facing Latios. Like, what do you do against that? Like, you have awesome like defensive threats for it, but if things set up, you're gonna have struggle revenging them. You're gonna have to set up, hopefully chip them as they're setting up, or just happen to have something that walls them enough. I mean, Mega Alt, Skarm, and Bliss are gonna do that quite a bit. So like, I mean, if Mew runs defensive, it can be huge issues. So hazards, decent. You have Sticky Web and Toxic Spikes with Aridos. It's great. It's not going to come very often. You have Stealth Wax with Blissey. Fine. Not going to come very often. You have all the hazards with Mew. That's fine. Not going to come super often. And then you have Spikes and Stealth Wax with Skarm, which can definitely come often. So Skarm here is carrying the hazards, but the others can still run them when needed. Webs and Cure and Black is obviously going to be pretty decent. Nothing else really benefits from Webs. I mean, Mew can, if you want to run Nasty Plot under Webs. That's a lot better than having to run Dragon Dance or Calm Mind. And then Mega Alt sort of can. It's probably going to want to run Dragon Dance anyways. And then Removal is a little bit better since you have Altaria can definitely defog. Hitmonlee can spin if it needs to. Mew can defog if it needs to. Skarm once again carrying that with defog, and priority defog on Wims is still pretty nice. And as I said kind of early on, going forward, the offense is a little bit lackluster. I mean, obviously you have Kieran Black, which can just run through things without having to do anything. Altaria with the Pixelate is going to do amazing fairy hits, and it can run special or physical, which is great. And then Incineroar hits kind of hard. Obviously, Hitmonlee hits hard enough. Whimsicott only has 77 special attack. This thing like hits really hard when you specs it, but you have to run specs on it. So he is definitely missing some offensive pressure, but obviously that's made up by the fact that he can switch into most moves. You're going to have to chip this team down. You're going to have to rely on either pivoting, predictions, or really good like mixed attackers. So something with really good like special like pressure that can also hit on the physical side for Blissey if it needs to, or like just like a really good fighting type that like Alt and Mew can like it can be taken on by. I didn't structure my sentence correctly there. So I mean, so he's definitely got a lot of options here. So defense is just out of control good. I mean, we can go over the multiple heal bells, multiple or just wish passing with Blissey. Quack can recover. Whimsicott, I don't think recovers, but isn't that bulky. Incineroar is big, doesn't recover. Blissey recovers. Altair recovers. Skarmory recovers. Me recovers. Even Kieran Black recovers. You can occasionally run that bulky Kieran Black that could just sub and roost on everything and just run like dual stab or something. So you're looking good here, just overall. Like I said, the main issue is breaking. So if this is a team that you can get set up against, some like some sort of like nasty plot special attacker in a matchup where Blissey isn't very good and he feels he doesn't need to bring it or something, you can definitely like run through this team offensively if you need to, but it basically will require setup. But this team could also get stalled out pretty easily. So you do have like heal bells and a little bit of wish passing and stuff so it'd be really hard to break this team. But if you needed to, like you wouldn't have to worry about getting broken besides with Kieran Black or setup Mew for the most part. So I mean it's gonna do stuff like I said. Priority and Scarfers is the biggest issue. Kieran Black's gonna probably feel pressure to come Scarf pretty often, or it's gonna feel pressure to run webs to make up for the lack of speed. I mean Whimsicott Tailwind also gonna be good there. But that's more like setup, I would say, than priority and scarfing. And the priority, I think, is mostly. I mean, Hitmonlee gets every priority in the game for the most part. And then Incineroar, even a little bit Mew if it needs to. Prankster Whimsicott, I don't like really consider that priority unless you can stun spore something as like a last ditch effort to make sure you don't get swept. It can be nice. And then the setup is obviously very good. Yeah, I mean, Kieran Black doesn't really set up because no Dragon Dance, but Mew sets up, Altaria sets up. and Hitmonlee kind of sets up. So I mean, I guess the setup's not that amazing, but this mons that do have setup have really good setup. Basically, you run Cotton Guard alt. So just a very good, well-rounded team. Obviously, towards the bulky side, but like it's good bulk. It's not like there's just a bunch of fat mons, and you're gonna wish you had more offense. Like the offense is there if you need it. But this I don't want to prep for this team, and I don't have to. So good job, Soul. Second place. The last two coaches are Hacker and the St. Louis Chatbots, and Will and the Whitney Miltanks. Will has been in the draft for his entire life, and then for the entire league's life. Obviously, I'm joking there. And then Hacker's been like 1 or 2 seasons, and he always drops, so he better not drop, or I'll be pissed. But in second place is they're right here. The last two teams I did. You think I got easier as time went on, since the last two teams are the top teams by like multiple points? Maybe. It's Hacker. He's in second. So Hacker scored an 84.1. It's pretty good. I don't, like I said, I may very well have gotten like a little bit easy as time went, but also look at this team. We got some good stuff going on here. We have Latias Mega, Super Mega Bulk. We have Coco, not as good here without the DLC moves, so no player FCC, but still a good mod. I mean, it would be probably 20 points with those moves, and now it's 18. Pharaoh, annoying as hell to break. A good Fairy Dragon Steel core here with like a combo of bulk. These two can recover. It's gonna run seeds. You have Jellicent, really good this gen with Strength Sap. Yeah, so the first thing I can say about this team is that the spear tiers are very, very nice. You have Coco to Salazzle to Latias Mega. You even have Cryogonal filling in this gap. 105 to 95 with the Omega isn't anything crazy. The only thing after that is there's like a huge jump from 95 to looks like 68. So like that is a bit of an issue. There are a lot of like 70 to 85 whatever speed tier mons that can have a really good time there, but like that's not also a huge deal because it's not like you can't just outspeed those mons with the other stuff. It just means that your bulk is going to struggle a little bit more without something in there to force some medium speed offensive mons to really go like max speed. I would say they can run Adamant Modest, hit a little bit harder, but it's not a huge issue. Hazards on this team is pretty much just Ferrothorn Donphan, which is pretty good. I would say, I mean, Barbaracle is not really going to run Stealth Rock, obviously, pretty much ever. But Donphan and Ferrothorn are very nice setups, and I'm going to ignore Quilladin, doesn't count, even though it could set up Spike. So it's decent hazards for sure. Decent as well. Removal, you have Cryogonal, which doesn't mind running Rapid Spin or Defog. Probably just always going to run Rapid Spin unless there's like a really, like a Chandler or something, I guess. Donphan, nice Rapid Spin. Latias Mega can't run Defog. Tapu Koko really doesn't want to run Defog because of terrain. And then Neon Mega running Defog. Maybe that does work on training. I think it does though. Neon Mega doesn't really want to run Defog, but maybe you can run a Boots Defog set. So, removal and hazards are both like decent enough to get okay scores. Typing, I know, is very good. I think normal is the only one he's missing. Something like that. So he's got good type coverage. I guess maybe that it's considered type coverage. Just good types drafted. Offense, once again, is a little bit lackluster. Latias Mega obviously still has good special attack, but it's more focusing on bulk. Coco, it relies on terrain, and it's missing that really play rough, close combat use of it as attack. And then after that, I mean, you have Donphan, which can hit hard physically, but it's going to run bulky. You have Pingoro, which is slow, but can hit hard. Yamaga and Salazzle are good special attack, so he's got like very like decent attack. He doesn't have like a true breakers. I know Yanmega specs Tintaledons can definitely be a breaker, and Coco, Latias Mega can break, but they usually need setup. So there's not a lot of like, I mean, you can run specs Salazzle. It's not terrible. Like he has options for choice mons, but you're not going to face this team and be like, oh, he's going to run through me. You're going to face this team and be like, how the hell do I break Pharaoh Jelly Latias Mega? So his defense obviously is very well scored. I don't remember if he doesn't have clerics, but he does have like Wish Latias, so it's not a huge deal. Latias, obviously poisoning it is the best thing you can do. Refresh is no longer in the game, surprisingly, so you can't actually deal with that. So like maybe if something on his, I don't even know nothing on the team would really get Heal Bell, but something to Heal Bell for Latias Mega could be nice. Otherwise he has to try to like reflect type as a poison or steel type, and so like it's not amazing. Like his defense isn't a 10 because of that. And then he's running into another issue of priority and scarfing again, which I'm rusting most teams with that. Like, and all I really ask is that you have like one or two decent scarfers in like the 90 plus range, maybe even 80 plus range. I'll give it to you, and then like one decent priority mon, that can revenge if you need it. But let's see. I mean, it tells me the priority. So I mean, Donphan, Ice Shard, and Pangoro Bullet Punch are the main. Like all these like little quick attacks and fake outs. They're not like useful priority. They can be nice as like filler moves or whatever, stall out like weather kind of thing with fake out, but not amazing there. And then his setup's obviously really good. He got a lot of Ace Mega Coco to calm mine. Pharaoh can curse, it's not going to. Slazzle has Nasty Plot. Yeah, Mega has built in speed boost setup. Barbarical has Shell Smash. Barbarical is honestly pretty much a steal for 4 points. I mean, all it can do is come in and Shell Smash, but if you have a good mon that you can come in against, it's fast enough that it's hard to revenge. And with tough claws like Liquidation, ever since Gen 7, I think it's been improved quite a bit. So yeah, it's just a very very good team. Like I think this looks like a Gen 7 team. I don't see anything very Gen 8 about it, especially since none of these mons have really benefited from the Gen 8 like movesets. I think Pangoro did because it's in the game and stuff. Maybe Karagon a little bit, but there's nothing crazy here. It's just a very very good well rounded team, and that will leave William Archibald Pascoe. Whitney Miltanks, that's his name. Don't worry about it. And his fat, stupid, decent team. That like going from Hacker's team to this one, you're gonna be like, this is the number one seed. Listen, he's got moves here. All right, speed tiers looking zesty. You got Noivern, you got Mega Absol. The main issue is Mega Absol to Celebi. If he had like a 105 in there or something, he'd be looking great. But then you still have 100 to 90 to 81. Like he doesn't have any gaps open. And the speed tiers are there. They're pretty much as good as Hackers. So I don't know, maybe Hacker could have probably scored high or something. Hazards and removal, I gave the same score as Hacker, just to kind of compare these top two teams. Though 84.6 was the score for this. So hazards and removal are decent. You have Celebi and Clefable, and Piloswine all able to run Stealth Rock. Not amazing, that's average things. I mean, Piloswine is the main Stealth Rocker here, but the other two can do it. And the Corviknight is very revival. Defog, Noivern can run it. Hitmonchan and Absol. Absol doesn't really count, but Hitmonchan spinning always fine.
All right, smooth transition time. So after that, we go to typing. I think Will is also missing a poison type. I don't remember which other team did that, but other than that, he's pretty fine. Just missing a couple like normal and rock. So not a huge deal with missing typing. Missing a poison obviously can be an issue for fairy types because then you see Darmanitan is doesn't like really want to be switching into hits to count as a fairy resist. So you're basically relying on Corviknight, and you have certain fairy types getting fire coverage now, which can make Corviknight less of a perfect check for a few different fairies. But you also have Clefairy, which can, I guess, or Clefable, maybe a little slightly better Pokemon. Can 1v1 a lot of fairies just by being fat. But offense, so once again, very similar to Hacker. A little bit lackluster. I mean, you obviously have Darmanitan and Absol with amazing physical attacking pressure, but then that's pretty much it. I mean, Absol can run special moves. Noivern is a good special attacker, but without like a life orb or specs, it's not hitting like a truck on its own. Clefable also a decent special attacker. Melodic, Celebi, they're not hitting for amazing damage, but they at least exist. I think Celebi somehow doesn't get Calm Mind, only gets Nasty Plot, which is interesting. But at least like the team will have some decent setup. I'll go over that in a second. Defense obviously a lot better. Defense got the same score as Hackers. Just because you have Clefable, Corviknight, Melodic is pretty gross. I mean, I guess the team's a little bit electric weak. I mean, you have Celebi there and you have Piloswine, but a good enough like special attacker with, I guess, I mean, it's a bolt beam, it's objectively a bolt beam weak team. But I mean, there's answers to it. Clefable's not really like bolt beam weak, so you need some coverage there. Like I guess Toxicity could be an issue for this team. I mean, just clicks Boom Burst a lot, and
I don't know. Like I said, I won't consider one single mon with specific coverage to be like to hurt a team necessarily. It'll just be if that Pokemon shows up to a matchup, he's gonna struggle with it. But you know the defense is pretty out of control here. He has multiple heal bellers with Clefable and Selby. He has like mush passing with Clefables. Like it's Absol too. Not really gonna use it. He has decent priority options with Absol, kind of Dustoir, Hitmontane definitely for sure, and Ice Sharp Piloswine. Really good priority options, and a couple of decent Scarfers. Obviously, Darm is a great Scarfer. Neubern can be definitely a good Scarfer if you need it to be. Even Celebi. So he's got like two like pretty good options, a decent option. So Scarfing not amazing, but priority is super good. So that score obviously gets higher than Hackers, which I think is one more or less the main reason that Will kind of like passes Hacker at the last second here is just getting slightly better offense. I don't know if that's really like fair to say. You can go back and look at that team and tell me that this team is not as good offensively, but he definitely has good priority in scarfing, and he has still decent setup. You have like our defense Corvus sets, you have like Cosmic Cower, Combine, Clefable sets, you have Nasty Plus LB, you have the odd Belly Drum Darm, you do have Sword Stance Absol Mega, of course. You have like bulk up Hitmonchan, like not amazing setup. Like I said, I think this and Hackers team are very like close to each other. They could probably flip pretty easily, but there is a decent jump between these two teams and the rest. I mean, and then ironically, this is kind of like an opposite. This is like a very Galardexy team. And Clefable, Corby, Melodic are all like very good mons currently in the Galardex. I don't think Selby's in there. I don't know. Hey, Darmanitan must be because Galardarm is. Absol doesn't count, but Neuvern as well. Like you have like a ton of Galardex mons here, so like it's actually kind of interesting that this team got first, at least top two, because you would think like Galardex gets a little bit of uh not what's the term for like insulting criticism. Woo. That like obviously for not having all Pokemon and being a little bit centralized, I guess, in the meta, less so in draft league, but he drafted pretty well here. There's like I said, there's nothing super obvious. Like it's gonna be hard to break. If Melodic Corby with electric weakness isn't amazing, if you have a good Volt switcher or like an electric type that can get U-turn, so that way when like Pylo or Celebi comes in, like those are not gonna enjoy that. You can definitely like run through this team if you need to, but at the same time, Darmanitan Absol get in there. Like if he plays his team as a nice fat, decently hard hitting team, it's not like I mean Pharaoh Thorn can like hit hard because of like Duraball and stuff and like Grass Stab, but you're not like, oh, I can't switch into Pharaoh. Like Melodic, sometimes you can't switch into Melodic. Like it's got just that base 100 Scald. Clefable, same thing. You can, if it's running Fire Fairy, like Corviknight, Knight, obviously can run like Body Press and all that. So like his bulk has very good offensive pressure, more so than other bulks I think have, at least in Division 3. So that's it. I'm done. Kill me. This draft is also pretty sus. Actually, they're all. Let's see. No, Ollie's draft. Pretty sus. Cardiff Devils. Pretty sus. Okay, the meme. The meme may have already run its course, especially if you didn't watch Salty do his absurd but like very entertaining PRs. So I have to go edit and like slap in the thing. I hope you can see my cursor. Like I've been like pointing, like, oh, look at this. Like, okay, if you can't see my cursor, I'm like circling the cursor around Clefable's HP, and if you can see it, I look like a doofus. But either way, I don't know. I could have put a lot more like structure and like actually thought through what I was gonna say here. I haven't made a video in like 4 months, so like whatever. I'm not too worried about it. So if you're at this point, I don't know if you just like watched the beginning and skipped to your part and sent it, but then you wouldn't be hearing this. So meta, I guess. I don't know. Thanks for watching this this BS. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope everyone has a fun season. I think actually like one of these coaches made transactions. I think Luke did. I didn't trash Luke's team too hard. I think he's the one who was in eighth. But it's okay. So let's go back to the homepage here and looking at all our nice
D3 coaches. Just kidding. It's the slowest loading of all time. But if you've been using the website, it happens sometimes. Still auto, great job. Not gonna complain too bad. So this is actually my prediction for how the season standings will end. I think Ollie's gonna be in first. Obviously not. I don't know how this is determined. Okay, please let me out. Me. Gotta send it. What is happening? It's growing. It's growing before my eyes. Okay. Yeah. Thanks again for watching. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if we're gonna update these at all. I mean, I'll probably maybe I'll do like mid-season PRs or something. We'll figure it out. Everyone have fun, have clean battles, and I don't know. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.